All right, let's get started. Hello, and everyone, and welcome. It's exciting to have the opportunity to hold our live meetings again. We're planning to host a few more of these events, and hopefully, we can get as many people as possible tuning in. For those who haven't met me, my name's Damien, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager for Neolife in the South Pacific. Today, I have the very exciting task of welcoming an old friend and colleague back to the Neolife family, nutritionist and dietitian Chris Andrews. Now, long-time promoters and customers will remember Chris as one of our original product managers. He's highly regarded, passionate health professional who genuinely cares about people's well-being. Chris now runs his own nutritional consultancy and is partnering with Neolife to help us inform people about nutrition and the impact it has on their health. Today, Chris will be diving into our theme of winter wellness and what you can do to stay well and even thrive in the colder months. So, and that's enough from me. Let me hand it over to the expert. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Damien. Thank you, and welcome, and hello to everyone. It's been a very long time for many of you. I haven't actually had a chance to meet you, but I hope to over the next period of time that I'm consulting with Neolife. And for those who I haven't met before, again, I'd like to re-establish our acquaintance, and I look forward to doing so. I will just start by giving you a little bit of a background to myself. So I am a dietitian and nutritionist by profession. I have worked, as Damien pointed out, with Neolife quite a few years ago now. Had a little hiatus, but I'm now back on deck in a capacity where I'm again helping promote the Neolife products. Because deep down, the Neolife products to me are a very special, I guess, breed of product. They are whole food, nutrition-based supplements, which from my perspective as a dietitian is incredibly important. And I actually am very much familiar with the complementary healthcare industry throughout Australia and New Zealand. And in the last period of time that I've been working since Neolife days, there has never been a product or products that's come close to the Neolife range of products with that whole food philosophy. So I've got here a little bit of background. I am a lifelong student of nutrition because from my perspective, it's something that everyone learns and we continue to learn. There's no nutritional expert out there that knows everything. There's always something new and exciting being researched and understood better. And even my own understanding of nutrition has grown and developed over the last 30 years since when I first graduated from university as a budding young dietitian who came out thinking he knew a lot and wanted to change the world. And since then, I've now realized that there's so much more in understanding about nutrition and the power that it has in promoting our own health and well-being, whether it be physical health, mental health. They're the main aspects of nutrition from my perspective. So what we'll be diving into is our winter wellness program, because we are coming into those colder months now. I actually, at the moment, am residing in regional Queensland, and it has taken a little bit of time for it to cool down, but the weather is starting to change, the season is changing, and I know people throughout Australia and New Zealand will be going through those same changes with the cooler months. And it's a really important time because we often associate the cooler months with the time of year when we're probably a little bit more prone to being exposed to, the flu, colds and the like. So really important time to focus on stabilizing and building your immune function. So a little bit of the agenda for today. I'll do a little brief introduction to Neolife. And for me, I must admit, I've had to reacquaint myself with the Neolife philosophy and family. We then go look at the immune system, keeping it nice and simple. It's really, I don't want to get too deep and go into the weeds, so to speak. But then we go look at the nutrition and its impact on immunity, especially focusing on the phytonutrients, because that's where I really have a keen interest in. What are the key supplements to help support your immune health? And then strategies, just general strategies to maximize immune potential, so including nutritional supplementation. So we'll get started, we'll delve in. So introduction to Neolife. For me, the key attribute of Neolife is a philosophy of being based in nature and backed by science. So from a nature perspective, we're looking at whole food, plant-based nutrition in particular, and looking at the foods that we have been exposed to consuming throughout our history, and using those key nutrients to ensure that they are fortified in our diet. So finest natural nutrients from whole food sources that will help improve or increase your wellness. So we're looking at proteins, fats, plant-based phytonutrients, and the like. And of course, having them backed by science, so delivered in highly bioefficient forms in exclusive formulations, carotenoid complex, flavonoid complex, cruciferous plus, and the like. How those nutrients in that form maximize the nutrient absorption, because that's what our body is designed to absorb and digest, and the utilization and the benefits of those nutrients downstream. So let's move across to understanding your immune system. So basically here what we're looking at is immunity is the protection against you and everything else in the environment that would like to try and harm you. And that includes a wide range of things such as biological challenges, so bacteria, viruses, molds, fungi, airborne allergens, through to your biochemical challenges, so agricultural chemicals, industrial chemicals, and we can be exposed to those through our food supply, through the air that we breathe, people using pesticides near farm who live on the land, exposed to those environmental chemicals. Air, water. Water is a big one actually, because we drink water every single day, and for a lot of us, if we're not using filtered water or some form of purification to clean our water, we can be exposed to a lot of toxins that end up in our water supply, and of course in our food supply. So a lot of the foods that we consume will be absorbing those compounds through the environment, through the soil, through physical contact like spraying of crops with pesticides and herbicides. So all those can end up in the food supply, and as we consume them, they'll end up in our body. So our body then has to develop a certain way to protect itself against that. And that really comes down to the immune system, which is basically a system of cells and organs in the body that prevent and clean up foreign compounds and agents. So they could be a whole range of things that we are exposed to over the course of the day. If you want to dive into a little bit more about the immune system, there's really two categories of the immune system that we're focusing on, and that is the innate or the general immune system, which is your very first line of defense. So that includes your skin for starters, because your skin is actually one of your first barriers against everything else out in the environment. But then there's also specialized cells that occur. So your phagocytes, your proteins, your natural killer cells, they are the hard and fast response. So they're a little bit indiscriminate. They like to come in and just try and clear up what they can. They do create a little bit of damage through inflammation. So some inflammation is actually very beneficial, because that's your first line of defense against these foreign compounds that are invading your body. But sometimes if that inflammation gets out of control, that can create its own problems. And we see that with COVID-19 as a very important case in point, where people who were exposed to COVID-19, one of the problems with that was that their immune system would try and fight the virus, but it would do so and create a lot of inflammation, systemic inflammation throughout the body, where the body couldn't tone down the immune response. So sometimes in a lot of the medical profession thought it wasn't actually the virus itself, it was more the body's reaction to that virus that was causing a lot of the longer term damage. Then we also move into the adaptive immune system, or the specialized immune system. And this is where you have specific targets against pathogens that are produced by more, accurately antibodies in your body. So these are your T cells, your B cells, immune system response. So they provide a more accurate response against the antigen, which is the pathogen, if you like, or the foreign invading compound. It's not so quick to respond, because it takes a little bit of time for your body to develop the antibodies against that compound. But the advantage is it's more specialized, doesn't create the same wide ranging damage to the body, but it also has a memory where it remembers those germs. So this is why you can get a vaccination, for example, for, say, tetanus, and that will last for maybe 10 or so years before you need to get a booster shot. So it's very effective against those longer-term approach to dealing with those pathogens. So the immune system is a network. It has evolved over millennia to face those challenges. And we also know that the immune system goes through various phases throughout our life cycle. So when you're very young, your immune system is very weak in a way, because it hasn't really had a chance to develop those especially the specialized antibodies to the foreign chemicals. So that's why a lot of young children are always getting sick. And sometimes we do believe that now the more exposure to those pathogens, the better the immune system will be at developing resistance longer term. But then at the other end of the spectrum of our life spectrum, we also have the issue of older age, where our immune system sort of starts to degrade a little bit. And therefore, that's really critical time for nutrition to impart those beneficial effects on our immune system. And of course, there's some people who go through life and they may be immunocompromised for various reasons. They may have to go through various states of medical treatment, and that can lead to immune compromisation. And so for them as well, they need to be very careful about being exposed to those foreign chemicals and pathogens. So for me, it comes down to host resistance, and that is he or she who has the most adaptable immune system. And what by adaptable I mean is able to respond in a most appropriate way. We don't want to overstimulate the immune system, because that can lead to its own problems, but has a tailored response to the immune challenge at the time. They'll have the best chance at surviving long-term health well maintained and free of disease and illness. So we'll move on to the role of nutrition in immunity. And that is basically the strength of your immune system is dependent on the quality of your diet, the foods that you eat, the water that you drink on a day-to-day basis. And there's two key aspects to this, and that is nutrient diversity and nutrient density. So density basically means how many of the foods that you're consuming that are rich in those vitamins, minerals, proteins, essential fatty acids, fiber, and the like that will help maintain your health and wellness. And diversity is the range of foods that you're consuming. So from a nutritional perspective, as a dietitian, one of the very first things I look at in people's diets is the variety that they're eating. You can have very narrowed, focused eating, whereby some people just eat the same things day in, day out. What the nutrition research is really showing is that those who have the most variety in their diet, if there's one thing you can take away, the most variety in your diet is the key to a good indicator of long-term health and well-being. Nutrient diversity, because no one food provides all the key nutrients that you need, and no one supplement will provide all those key nutrients either, for that matter. So the more variety you can have, the better. The other thing to look at is to consider is also that some foods do contain toxins. So if you're only eating a certain narrow range of foods and there's a particular toxin in that food that your body doesn't particularly want to have too much of, then you can actually increase your intake of that food, of that toxin unknowingly. So again, variety is the key. So eating a variety of nutrients provides the key building blocks that support your immune system. And so we're looking at plenty of variety, plenty of colors throughout the day in your diet. Eat the rainbow is a good saying that I like to follow with my clients. So phytonutrients, healthy fats, in particular the omega-3 fatty acids, probiotics and prebiotics as well from a gut health perspective, vitamins and minerals, which most people know about, antioxidants, and protein-rich, fiber-rich foods. Let's dig in a little bit more. So if you don't get that, or inadequate intake of any of those, or suboptimal intake of any of those key nutrients, it may result in a chink in the armor, which may lead to that disease taking a foothold in your body. So we'll move on to the benefits of phytonutrients. So this is where I think nutrition has a particularly important role to play. And I'm going to introduce you to a concept that may be new to you, or you may have actually heard about this, and this is called phytohormesis, and the concept that plant-based or plant-derived compounds can induce a mild stress, and we call this a eustress, a beneficial stress or hormesis, and that then builds up resilience over time. So this is a particularly, I think, an exciting area of nutritional research. I'm reading a book at the moment called The Stress Paradox, which is particularly fascinating because this the author of this book is delving deep into the benefits of different activities, in particular phytonutrients, and the role that they play in helping promote phytohormesis. So the hormetic response. Basically, what we're saying here is you have an adaptive stress response, activation of detoxification enzymes and anti-inflammatory regulation, and an antioxidant action. And you can see in that little illustration there, you don't want too much of this because that can also create a problem, but just enough. It's like a Goldilocks approach. A low dose of these nutrients on a daily basis induces a small amount of cell stress that creates that adaptive response to repair and defend your body against those foreign invaders longer term. So there's actually a lot of scientific research on this now, and I've, these acts, for starters, the article on the left is a public access article, so you can actually get access to this yourself. I'm happy to send through the actual articles themselves through to the Neolife team. So please make contact with Terry-Ann and Damien, and I'm happy to forward through to these references. But basically what they're saying here is that this hormetic dietary phytochemicals have such an important role to play in stabilizing your health long term. So we'll move on to the supplements, because from my perspective, this is where Neolife really does shine a strong light. So we'll start off with the carotenoids. I'm fascinated by carotenoids because they are the bright, colorful pigments that you see in many fruits and vegetables. So they are what we call lipid-soluble phytonutrients. There's an estimated 400 to 600. I've even read some reports saying that now is up to around 1,000 of these carotenoid compounds throughout the food supply. They help assist in healthy immune levels. Now, I think most people, well, I'm sure everyone in this room has probably heard of beta-carotene and lycopene and lutein, cryptoxanthin, zeaxanthin. These are all nutrients that provide certain aspects, and they all have a particular role to play in different parts of the body. So, for example, beta-carotene has a provitamin A effect, which is obviously very important for your immune system. Lycopene is very similar. It's one of the most important carotenoids that help absorb free radicals. The green leafy vegetables are rich in lutein and zeaxanthin, and they are very important for the pigments that create the macula of pigment of your eye. So very important for eye health and well-being. From an immune perspective, these nutrients help provide immune support. So carotenoid action on immune response, again, we've got a lot of studies on this, and in fact, one of the key aspects of carotenoid complex, which I'll talk about in a moment, is that they've done in particular research on how these nutrients help support immune health. Carotenoids therapeutic strategy in battling against emerging diseases such as COVID-19. So carotenoid complex, it's a unique blend. There's no other nutrient supplement like it. I would say in the nutritional supplement world, tomatoes, carrots, red capsicum, strawberries, apricots, peaches. One of the biggest sources of beta-carotene in dietary supplements is an algae, which is very cheap to grow. It grows on ponds, and Australia is actually one of the largest producers of this algae. It's a very good source of beta-carotene. Humans in particular don't eat this particular algae, but dietary supplements manufacturers think it's a good idea for you to use it. Neolife does not have that philosophy. The philosophy from Neolife is let's look at the foods, see what foods are rich in these carotenoids, and harness the action that nature has provided for us from our food supply to get these nutrients. So it's tomatoes, carrots, red capsicum, strawberries, apricots, peaches, and they have it in an olive oil base because, like I mentioned earlier on, these carotenoids are fat soluble, lipid soluble, which means that for them to be absorbed in your body, they need an oil base to be absorbed, and they also then concentrate in the oil parts of your body. So it's tested and proven from about 1994 through to 2001. Neolife researchers were working with USDA researchers in showing that people who were taking carotenoid complex could actually beneficially improve their immune capacity. So it really is formulated to bridge that gap of intake between these important nutrients. We also know that these carotenoids work synergistically together. So it's a broad spectrum of these phytonutrients, these carotenoid-rich phytonutrients. It's also one of the most researched nutritional supplements on the market. So then, to complement the fat-soluble carotenoids, we then move on to the flavonoids. And I mentioned earlier on that there's, say, 600 or so carotenoids in the food supply. Well, with the flavonoids, it's far greater. It's thousands of different types of flavonoids that exist in the food supply. And they are complementary to the carotenoids, but these, as opposed to being lipid soluble, these are more water soluble phytonutrients. They are powerful antioxidants. So again, in relation to the immune system, flavonoids and the immune system, there's some very good research showing that flavonoids have a beneficial effect at providing antioxidant support to your immune system. And they're found in a wide range of foods, many different types. So again, flavonols, flavonoids, these are just some of the classes of the different flavonoids that have an effect. And again, I'm happy to send through these resources to you. You can actually see that this is clinical research. This is scientific fact about the importance of these compounds in your food supply. Flavonoid complex, again, like carotenoid complex, there's no one perfect food supply of all these different types of flavonoids. There's many different types of flavonoids. So you cannot expect to just consume one or two foods and get the whole range of those flavonoids. So from a Neolife's philosophy is, let's use a variety of different foods, whole foods, and get the benefits from those foods. So food ingredients such as green tea, kale, berries, a variety of berries, including cranberries, red and black grapes, beetroot, and of course the citrus fruits. They're some of the most potent food sources of the flavonoids in our food supply. And that then gives you a good representation of all 5 classes of the flavonoids: the flavones, the flavonols, the flavonones, anthocyanins, and the catechins. Cruciferous Plus is the third component of the major nutrient groups that help support your immune system. And again, with Cruciferous Plus, this is a particular blend of broccoli, kale, radish, brown and black mustard, and watercress. And the cruciferous vegetables have a very important role to play in stimulating, I guess what you would say, detoxification enzymes, especially in the liver, that help remove these toxins from your liver and from your body eventually. So they deliver a wide range of sulfur-containing compounds that are important. They're pungent aroma and bitter taste. And importantly, it's those bitter components of the foods that give benefit to your body. Unfortunately, a lot of these foods aren't particularly favorable with a lot of people because they do have that pungent or bitterness to them, but it's actually that bitterness that you're looking for from a health perspective. Small doses stimulate your body's your hormetic response and long-term beneficial health consequences. So phytodefense is actually a really good way of getting 6 servings of fruits and vegetables containing the carotenoids, the flavonoids, and also the cruciferous compounds in your diet. The 3-2-1 approach. A new product that I haven't really had a huge amount of exposure to since I've returned to the Neolife family is Tray. I've been looking at the ingredients of Tray, and I'm actually particularly fascinated by it because it is also, I guess, a complementary product to the phytodefense product. So it's a particularly rich source of pomegranate juice, acai berry extract, and green tea. along with grape extract and other extracts of currants and red berries. It also contains lipoic acid, and lipoic acid is a fascinating little antioxidant nutrient because it's the only antioxidant nutrient that we know is both fat soluble and water soluble. So not too many vitamin supplements contain that alpha lipoic acid. So it's very reassuring to see it in that formulation. And resveratrol, which is again a very rich source of antioxidant nutrients. So when you're looking at cellular protection with Trey, you're looking at vitamin C, the polyphenols, which is the flavonoid family of groups, the phenolic acids, anthocyanins, anthocyanidins, the catechins, the proanthocyanidins. So again, very rich source of these whole food nutrients. So we'll change focus now. We're looking at the cellular function. So with regards to this, we're looking at whole grain lipids and sterols. Now, every cell in your body is surrounded by a cell membrane, and that cell membrane is predominantly made up of lipids. In particular, the phytosterols and lipids from the foods that you eat will have an important role at maintaining the cellular health of that cell membrane. So tree and end grain concentrates help improve your cellular energy, optimize the cell function by maintaining that soft, pliable action of the cell membrane that allows the nutrients to get in and remove the waste effectively as well. Very important part of the whole food plant-based approach for neolife. Then we need to balance the immune response. So I mentioned earlier on that sometimes your body responds by creating an inflammatory reaction to the foreign invading compound, the antigen. So what you need to do to help, or what your body needs to help tone down that inflammation, is have a source of nutrients that help improve that anti-inflammatory response. And this is where the omega-3s are critically important, because we do understand that omega-3s have an important role playing at balancing down or toning down that inflammatory response. So the omega-3 Seminole Plus is a very important product because it's an exclusive, highly purified form of the omega-3s. It's concentrated form of the omega-3s, clinically proven, guaranteed potency, and that's really important. And it's a good source of those salmon's dinner's worth of omega-3s. Now, let's move on to the digestive tract itself. So this could really have its entire topic itself, because the microbiome, the microbiota, is an important area of research. In fact, I think it's fascinating how this is growing so much in the medical literature at the moment. We know that for every cell in our human body, there's probably about 100 cells of bacterial form. So your probiotic gut immune system is incredibly important. In fact, 70% of your body's immune system is located very close to your gastrointestinal tract. And the reason for that is because when you think about it, the gastrointestinal tract is actually one of your most exposed areas where you're going to be exposed to the foreign agents that are coming through in your food supply. So probiotics, most importantly, they boost immune resistance. They produce antibiotic substances as well. They can also produce various vitamins and minerals. They importantly discourage the growth of potentially harmful bacteria. So there's always that inner fight going on between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria inside your gastrointestinal tract. And so having a good source of these probiotics is important. They work by preventing, they also have an important role in helping prevent diarrhea. So often when people have a case of the flu or food poisoning, that balance is upset, and your body's reaction to get rid of the bad bacteria is to cause diarrhea, but then you need to rebalance that by bringing back into your gut the good bacteria. So you do that through probiotics and prebiotics. And prebiotics are basically the food source for the good bacteria in your intestinal tract. And that's mostly going to be your resistant starch, your fiber-rich foods, your plant-based foods. So Acidophilus plus is the product of choice here. It's a concentrated source of active cultures. There's 5 types of beneficial bacteria, lactobacilli, lactic acid bacteria. They're whole food derived. The problem with a lot of these probiotics is that they are acid sensitive, and of course your stomach is a very highly acidic environment, so they need to be protected against that acid environment. So there is this proprietary gel guard technology which helps protect the probiotic bacteria once it's in your stomach. But once it goes through into your small intestine, it becomes less acidic environment, and that's where the gel guard technology then releases these good probiotic bacteria to have the beneficial effect. So 1 Acidophilus plus capsule per day, 10 servings of yogurt, or 5 servings of Acidophilus rich milk. So a very rich source of providing these good bacteria. Garlic and allium vegetables. So these are an incredibly important, sometimes underrated, what's the word I'm looking for? Underappreciated group of foods that they support healthy immune response, promote gastrointestinal health. So we're talking about garlic, onion, leeks, chives, and the like. These foods contain a variety of a cornucopia of different types of foods, mostly the sulfur-containing foods, similar to what was in the Cruciferous Plus, but slightly different family, such as allicin, that help promote the beneficial effects. A long history of use, traditional use, particularly in traditional Chinese medicine, but they're also very good tasting foods. So hopefully you're adding those daily into your dietary intake. But for those who don't particularly like them, then a dietary supplement is very beneficial. And that's where garlic allium complex comes into play. So it's a complete blend of whole food, again, powerful garlic and allium vegetables. It's a broad spectrum of these food extracts, targeted delivery technologies. So I mentioned before allicin. So allicin is the starting component. Allinase is the enzyme that is used to help convert allicin into allicin. So when you cut a clove of garlic, the allinase reacts with the allicin to produce allicin. And it's the allicin that we believe is one of the most important compounds that have the beneficial effects. Unfortunately, allicin itself can degrade quite quickly too. So what you're looking for is a product that helps protect the allicin so that it doesn't break down over time. And acid in the stomach can also break down allicin. So what you would like to have is a product that can help and protect the allinase and the allicin, so that from the gastric environment of the stomach, so that when it releases into the small intestine, it can then release the allicin in the small intestine, where it can be free to absorb into the body and do its biological activity. So it's a standardized product, standardized to allicin, and that is quite critical from a garlic perspective. It also helps prevent gastrointestinal distress. Some people that can be exposed to garlic, they do experience a little bit of intestinal distress. So the targeted delivery technology of the enteric coat can help reduce that as well. Then we move into the vitamin C. And of course, when it comes to immune protection, I think most people would think of vitamin C, take your orange, or consume your orange juice, eat an orange. So it is definitely known as being an immunity booster. It's essential for collagen production. And I know, your skin, I mentioned earlier on, is your first line of defense against exposure to pathogens. So having a healthy skin is very important for a robust immune system. So collagen is very important for healthy skin. And of course, it helps your body absorb iron. So the Neolife vitamin C, potent water-soluble antioxidant. So vitamin C works synergistically with the flavonoids, so flavonoid complex, for example, and the tray compound product. So again, that would be a good combination to have. High purity, high potency. And critically, it's not just purified vitamin C, but it's vitamin C with the whole food bioflavonoids, the broad spectrum protection, long lasting, sustained release that you can get also with Neo-C. So that neoplex concentrate helps slow down the release of vitamin C, so you don't get it released all at once. It slowly releases the vitamin C throughout your intestinal tract over time, which is quite critical because being water soluble, that's important. And I guess the last product I would like to talk about is zinc. And zinc, of course, is also synergistic in the immune system. We do know that zinc shows support for immune cell proliferation and wound healing, and it also has its own antioxidant enzyme function. So it's very critical to a lot of the antibodies and enzymes that are produced in helping support your immune system. There's so many different types of zincs out there, and really the best form from a safety, tolerability, and also absorption perspective is the Neolife double amino acid chelate. So chelation means claw, and basically what happens is that the chelate forms this amino acid zinc complex, and that helps piggyback the zinc across the gastrointestinal tract. So it helps protect against it from being too reactive in the stomach, and then it helps enhance the absorption of the zinc across the gastrointestinal tract, which is exactly what you're after. So the Winter Wellness Program, I won't talk about this too much, but you can be assured it is a combination of phytodefense, so cruciferous plus, flavonoid complex, and carotenoid complex, and garlic allium complex. For more information on that, please revert back to Damien and to Terry and the team at Neolife. The last aspect I want to talk about is strategies to maximize your immune potential. So this is just general speaking here. And what I'm talking about here is what you can do. So I'm going to go back to this host resistance that I spoke about earlier on. Key attributes of host resistance: eat a low-fat, low-added salt diet, rich in whole foods, particularly high-fiber, plant-based foods. Focus on variety, as I mentioned, critical for having a variety of foods in your diet, because no one food provides everything that you need. Variety is the spice of life. Daily physical activity. Now, I mentioned physical activity because this is really important. I don't mention exercise as such. Really, physical activity, if I was asked the question to people, what is the best exercise? To 10 different people, I get 10 different answers. And from my perspective, the best physical activity is the one that you think you can do from a day-to-day basis. So it could be walking, taking your dog for a walk, taking your partner for a walk, working in the garden. If you're inclined, going for a run, going to the gym, it is all good to do that type of physical activity. It's very important for that hormetic response that we spoke about earlier on as well. I've got here, consider time-restricted eating. This is a little bit unusual, perhaps, speaking from a Neolife perspective, but time-restricted eating or routine time, building on your circadian rhythm this is a fascinating area of research that I'm particularly fascinated in, whereby looking at maintaining that regular rhythm of food intake throughout the day, trying to reduce the amount of food that you consume, particularly when you're staying to retire before you go to bed, and making sure that you're trying to eat more. So a good saying I have is eating like a king in the morning, a print at lunchtime, and a pauperity in the evening. Sometimes that's not always easy to do, especially for a person who's a shift worker. That is really quite a challenge, but maintaining routine throughout your day is particularly important. Make time for sufficient sleep. So overnight time, a lot of people like to be on their devices or watching TV, and they sometimes give a little bit too much credence to that than getting an adequate rest. And again, trying to get to bed at a regular time, waking at a regular time is critically important. 7 to 8 hours of sleep is ideal. This is one area that I wish I could improve myself in. I don't get enough sleep. It's something I need to focus on more going forward, but it's critically important. And the last thing I would like to say is, of course, to take your daily supplements. The phytodefense combined with Tray, combined with the omega-3s, the Neo-Cs products, Acidophilus Plus, they're all critically important. And so take them on a daily basis, build that host resistance, and you'll do your very best at minimizing your risk for suffering from the ills of the winter season. So with that, I would like to say thank you. I do appreciate your time. I hope you found this of interest. I do look forward to meeting you in more, I guess, in more detail as we go forward. And with that, I'd like to say thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Go out and do some exercise, take your vitamins and your minerals, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.